let's hook up our front end to the back end. Here in the message service, I get the update message method, which is called when we, actually do update a message, or which we want to call in this case. Well, right now I'm not doing anything here. So let's copy the code from the add message method, since a lot of that is actually the same code. We do want to create a body which contains the message, the updated one that is, and we do want to set these headers, but the method is patch. And of course here in the path we need to pass this ID. So add a slash and then message ID. This is why we're fetching it. Now we're passing this message ID to the path because remember, on the back end we're expecting to get an ID in the path here. So with this set up, we're sending this patch request. The transformation I'm doing here is fine. Now we can hook up our input component to actually trigger this update message method. So here in the onZapIt method, where I currently only set this message to null, well, before I do this, I want to call my message service update message and pass my updated message to it. Thereafter, it's time to subscribe to it to actually send the request. And now here I will only print the result to the console. So console log result. You could also log the error if you want. Now in order to see this in action, I need to make sure that the message ID is actually stored in my message models here on the front end. I'm doing this here when I'm getting my messages. Here, when I store message ID in the message ID field. This is key, otherwise this message ID field here won't be populated and I'm not able to access and pass it. Now to populate it correctly though, I need to change this to _ID, small mistake, because of course on the back end in the server it has this _ID name. You can see this here in the MongoDB shell client. The field name is _ID. So this allows me to retrieve it here when I fetch messages. Of course, I also want to do this when I add a new message though. Otherwise, a message which I added won't have the message ID, and therefore if I edit it instantly before reloading the application in between, I would get an error. So let's do this too, and I will do this here in the map function where I return my messages. So I'll extend the function body here. I'll store this in the result constant. This is what I'll get back from the server. And then here I want to return a new message. And here the content should be my result object. Remember, on the backend here, messages service, on the post route, I do store the created message in this object field. So this will be the new message I retrieve. And there, of course, the content field. Now for the username, I'll set this to dummy for now. The message ID should again be result object and then _ID, like we changed it down here. And here I want to set the user ID to null. I'll add the real user ID in the next section of this course. Now, do you think this would work? It wouldn't. Because on the front end we still push a new message like this here, right before reaching out to the server. So the fact that I return a new message here and store the ID doesn't influence the message which actually gets stored in the array. So if I don't reload the application, we still have, no ID stored there. So this messages push has to go away here. Now we could implement it in two ways. I could implement the push method here somehow in the input component or here in the map method as well. So here where I return a new message, I can instead store it here in, let's say, message, like this. And then in the next line, I can push it on my messages array like this before I then, only one A, before I then return my message like this. Now with this in place, if I now save this, let it recompile and also restart the server, since we changed something there. If we now head over to the running application, we can click edit on an existing message, save it here. We get the updated message message, which looks great. If I reload, let's see if that persisted. Yes, it did. And if I add a new message without the W, let's say, and I now want to change this without reloading the app. If I now hit save, this also looks good. I got the updated message here. And once I reload, we see it was indeed updated. So now we get the edit and update methods in place. We're able to create new messages, to fetch our messages and to update them. The missing piece, of course, is to delete them. And you will see this is really easy to implement.